Welcome to the System Analysis and Design. Today's topic is Analyzing the Business Case. This is the standard color coding that we will be using throughout the course. Take a moment and be familiar with the color coding. At the end of this lecture, you should be able to understand how system requests originate and how to evaluate them. Also, you should be able to know how to conduct a feasibility study. Successful IT leadership engage in long-term planning, which will determine their vision for their future while handling day-to-day tasks. In order to undertake these tasks, they should understand the strategic planning process of the organization. Strategic planning is the process of identifying long-term organizational goals, strategies, and resources. The goal of strategic planning is to focus on the long-term goals of the organization rather than looking at the day-to-day activities. Strategic planning begins with a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. A SWOT analysis is a solid foundation for the strategic planning process because it examines a firm's technical, human, and financial resources. Mainly, the group of people with different perspectives and stakes in the company will take part in the SWOT analysis. The strengths and weaknesses are internal to the company, whereas opportunities and threats are external to the company. The strengths of the company are internal positive factors. You can ask several questions to figure out the strengths of the company. For example, you can ask, what do you do well? What internal resources do you have? Weaknesses are internal but negative factors. You need to figure out what are the negative factors you need to give your focus. You can ask questions like, does your business have limited resources? What does your business lack? Opportunities are external positive factors. You can ask several questions to figure out your opportunities. For example, what opportunities exist in your market? Threats are external, but negative factors that you need to be aware of. You can figure out them by asking, who are your potential competitors? What situations might threaten your marketing efforts? These are just a few samples of questions. Here is an example of SWOT analysis conducted for an internet small business startup. Wait here for some time and have a look at the example. When it comes to project planning, a business case is a very important document. It refers to comprehensive justifications for a project proposal. Normally, business case is developed during the early stages of the project. We need a business case when the resources or the expenditure on a project has to be justified. Why do you need a business case? A business case involves an assessment of problems with the current situation of the business and the benefits of the proposed version. It will give the benefits, disadvantages, costs, and risks of the current situation. By looking at these assessments, it's easy for the executive management or the decision makers to take decisions. Now let's see the reasons that result for initiating system projects. Systems request is the starting point of formally asking for IT support for a particular problem. A systems request might propose improvements for an existing system or the replacement of an older system with a new one. There are few key reasons for requesting system projects. The first one is improved services. System requests are coming with the idea of improving service to customers. For instance, allowing system users to make online payments, allowing users to view the items available, or allowing users to make online money transfers are some examples of that nature. The second one is support for new products or services. New products or services require IT support in various ways. As an example, a software solution provider would think of providing automatic renewal of license for their users. In situations like these, it is most likely that additional IT support will be required. The next one is better performance. If the existing systems are not meeting the performance requirements, the organizations will lose their customers. For example, it might respond slowly to data inquiries at certain times, or it might be unable to support company growth. Performance limitations also result when a system that was designed for a specific hardware configuration becomes obsolete when new hardware is introduced. The fourth one is more information. The system might produce information that is insufficient, incomplete, or unable to support the company's changing information needs. For example, a system that tracks customer orders might not be capable of analyzing and predicting marketing trends. The next one is stronger controls. A system must have effective controls to ensure that data is secure and accurate. Some common security controls include passwords, various levels of user access, and encryption, or coding of data to keep it safe from unauthorized users. The last one is reduced cost. The current system would be expensive to operate or maintain as a result of technical problems, design weaknesses, or the changing of demands of the business. It might be possible to adapt the system to newer technology or upgrade it. When a system request initiates, a system analyst should conduct an initial investigation to analyze the system's request and advise the required actions. The analyst's task is to collect information about the problem, project benefits, project scope, and constraints. At the end of the preliminary investigation, a report will be provided to the management. This preliminary investigation consists of a series of steps. We'll have a look one by one. The first step is to understand the problems and opportunities. In most of the situations, the system's request does not reveal the exact problem, but only a trait of it. For example, a request to analyze the complaints of a customer might reveal a lack of training for sales representatives rather than problems with the product. Therefore, the exact problem needs to be figured out. The fishbone diagrams could be used to analyze the causes and effects. The next step is define the project scope and constraints. Some analysts find it helpful to determine project scope by producing a list of must do, should do, could do, and won't do things. During the systems analysis phase, the list can be further reviewed. When defining the project scope, it is important to identify the project constraints as well. A constraint is a requirement or condition that the system must satisfy or an outcome that the system must achieve. A constraint can involve hardware, software, time, policy, law, or cost. System constraints also define project scope. For example, if the system must operate with an existing hardware, that is a constraint that affects potential solutions. The next step is to perform fact-finding. During fact-finding, you might analyze organizational charts, conduct interviews, review documentation, observe operations, or conduct a user survey. You should obtain organization charts to understand how the department functions and to identify individuals you might want to interview. The next step in the preliminary investigation is to analyze project usability, cost, benefit, and schedule data. Before the feasibility evaluation, you need to analyze the data accurately. Also, you need to develop time and cost estimates for the requirements modeling tasks. Particularly, you should also consider what is the information you should obtain and how do you plan to gather and analyze such information. The fifth step is to evaluate feasibility. Feasibility evaluation starts with reviewing the answers to the questions that are asked previously. More comprehensively, the following will be evaluated: operational feasibility, technical feasibility, economic feasibility, and schedule feasibility. The last step is to present results and recommendations to the management. Here, a report will be developed for management. However, the exact report format may vary from one organization to another. The report must incorporate an estimate of time, staffing provisions, costs, benefits, and expected results for the next phase of the software development lifecycle. A system is evaluated under feasibility study to see whether it is worthwhile to proceed further. 4 main studies are conducted to measure the proposal. Those are operational feasibility, technical feasibility, economic feasibility, and schedule feasibility. Sometimes a feasibility study is quite simple and can be done in few hours. If the request involves a new system or a major change, however, extensive fact-finding and investigations are required. First, let's see what is operational feasibility. Operational feasibility means that a proposed system will be used effectively after it has been developed. If users have difficulty with a new system, it will not produce the expected benefits. The sample questions that will help test the operational feasibility are shown here. The next one is technical feasibility. Technical feasibility refers to the technical resources needed to be developed, purchase, install, or operate the system. Sample questions that you can use when assessing technical feasibility are shown here. The next one is economic feasibility. During the economic feasibility study, a cost-benefit analysis is conducted and determine the benefits and savings that are expected from a proposed system and compare them with the costs. Sample questions that help test economic feasibility are shown here. The last one is schedule feasibility. Schedule feasibility determines that a project can be implemented in an acceptable time frame. When assessing schedule feasibility, a system analyst must consider the interaction between the time and cost. For example, speeding up a project schedule might make a project feasible but much more expensive. Sample questions that may help testing schedule feasibility are shown here. As a summary, you have learned how system requests originate and how to evaluate them. Also, you have learned about the basics of requirement gathering and you have learned how to conduct a feasibility study.